Hello, Copic and the Craft Room fans. It is Michelle Houghton once again. Happy New Year to all of you. I mentioned before the holidays, before the end of the year, that I had purchased way too many Christmas stamps this year. There were way too many on the market that were just too cute. Love them. And yes, I could be making Christmas cards all year long, and then maybe I would have them ready to send out. But that's not necessarily my MO. It's not my pattern. So instead, I love these little elves, but instead of being Christmas elves, they are going to become birthday elves today. So I've got my little elves and I'm putting them, making sure I'm kind of doing my best to line them up so they're standing upright. That is one of the tricky parts to me about foam stamps, is I really can't see what's going on as I turn them upside down and I'm lining them up. Now, this little guy, like this, if you can see him, he really is meant to be kind of laying down, but I am actually going to put him kind of up on that toe, kind of leaning sideways. So you're going to see what I'm going to do with these guys here in just a second, but get them up on their little toes and tuck them in close together. We're going to stamp those up. And I'm going to set this aside. May do some more of those here because these might turn out too cute. So I've got these cute little elves, but I want to show you my plan of attack here. Close it in. I'm going to start with a pencil and I'm truly just sketching strings, and then I'm going to add balloons on the top. So I'm doing just simple kind of oval and circle shapes. I'm adding the little bit of a tie at the bottom, and then I'm going to go over those lines with my multiliner. These are Copic Multiliners, so I know that they're not going to bleed when I hit them with my Copic markers. And then when the ink is dry, I'm going to erase all the pencil. I do not want to leave the pencil before I do my Copic work. So now I have three little elves carrying their birthday balloons. One way you could do this differently, and I probably should have done, is gotten a stencil to do the circle and ovals with. It would turn out a lot smoother and cleaner, but I'm going to color those up and they will be fun, colorful balloons no matter what. So, and I've obviously got one overlapping, so I can do a little bit of transparency there. I will go ahead and speed this up again and we will get some coloring done. So I'm going to start with the skin tones, and I'm using E00 as the base, and I'm going to hit all the little skin areas. I'm saying that they have their little arms hanging out because now they're at a birthday event. It's not cold anymore. And then E01 for some shading. I'm keeping it really simple. These are simple little shapes and they're small, so I'm keeping that shading really simple. Adding some little cheeks with R81, just some pink on those, and then softening that up over on the darker side with the E01, and then over on the light side, that left-hand side, with E00. Remember, you have to kind of switch back and forth when you've got the cheeks on both sides. I've got B12 for the base of one of the little outfits, and I'm going to jump back and forth between some colors on these guys. B14 is going to add the shading. It's a nice deep blue, and then softening that and blending that together back with the B12. YG01 is going to add the trim on this particular guy. And then YG03 is going to do dots on the top, a little bit of smooth shading on the rim, and I got the tights on that guy too. So I'm going back to YG01 to do my blending and also hit the next elf over. YG03 and even a little YG07 on this one's outfit to darken that up, blending back with YG03 and then YG01. Next group of colors here, I've got a BV20 because that's going to stay white, and I just did dots and then the colorless blender to soften that to make it look kind of like a fur trim. I figure he can still have fur trim to fluff up those little pieces. V12 is going to be on my last little elf. And then V04 is going to add the shading. Soften up with V12. And a little more V04 to darken that up. B00 is going to be the trim colors on this guy, and B12 to darken those areas, dots on the pom-pom, and some smooth shading on the rim and the belt. Smoothing that out, and then I'm moving up to the balloons. I'm going to start with a YG01. Notice I'm doing the portion that is behind the first balloon and then using colorless blender to soften the center out. So I leave the edge dark. Now I'm going to start with the colorless blender on my second balloon and then V12, and I'm flicking from the edge inward onto that colorless blender. So notice how the center stays lighter, and I can see that green from underneath peeking through. I'm going to have some correcting to do on that balloon, and I'll work at it while we're doing the next one. B00 for the base of the third balloon, and then V04 for the trim. B12 for the trim. Now notice I'm flying back and forth between the three. Colorless blender on the center of all of those balloons. Each of them have two colors. So the trim gets darker. YG03 at the trim of the third balloon. Adding a little more green on that back section to brighten that up. But it shows that it's like transparent. And then I'm using the colorless blender to kind of do some correcting on the white of the area. Notice I had to go around the bottom corner of the violet balloon, and I have to do correcting, and then I literally have to let it sit. I can't come in and do it again. It has to actually dry. So that's what we're doing. We're letting it dry, and then I'm coming back again with colorless blender. I tend on occasion to press down on it to kind of push it through to the back. I'm going to start with a C1 on some little tiny shadows, and then C3 close to those little guys' toes. So they've got a little bit of shadow, still confirming that that light source is coming in from that upper left-hand corner. And then I'm starting some sky with a B quadruple, so 4 zeros. Got one more time around that purple balloon, correcting, pressing it through to the back. And then I'm switching over to that sky color. Again, a B, so a blue with 4 zeros. So it's a super light color. I'm using my chisel nib so that I can kind of work a little more quickly and smoothly. I'm doing small circles, working all the way around the balloon. This is going to help push on that purple kind of bleed out area one more time. And you can see at this point, I've pretty much corrected that issue altogether. So I created that horizon line, and now I'm working up from that. I'm not going to fill that whole square in, but I am working around the balloons. This is super light, but I am going to come in with colorless blender and fade it out just a little bit more to finish it up. We've got them all colored up. These three are ready for a party, and it's a fun way to take a stamp set that obviously was created with one intent, but I've used it for something entirely different. But part of that is if I'm gonna keep buying stamps, I need to keep using them. We were discussing that in a class recently, that is so hard for a lot of crafters, and me included, is that once I've used them once, I don't necessarily want to color them again, but they're too expensive to do that. And so finding multiple uses for similar stamp sets is absolutely worth taking a little bit of time. And adding something simple like round balloons, and especially if you did it with a stencil, is really easy and fun. And you may even have balloon stamps that you could actually stamp with. But I really do appreciate you joining me this week. As always, make sure to check us out over at Copic and the Craft Room on Facebook. If you haven't had the opportunity to do it, please follow this channel so you can get this in your inbox every week, and like this video as well. Thank you for joining me. Have a happy, colorful week.